minutes from 95th. Bishop Ford 43 minutes, 80-94 to the merge. Northbound tri-state delays are 127th to 31st. And from the Reagan Tollway to Lawrence, the Reagan Tollway delays are Farnsworth to Eola. Northbound Veterans Memorial, Boughton, most of the way to St. Charles. And the Army Trail toll to 290. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. From the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center, clouds and sunshine today. High of 46, currently 40 at O'Hare. Next news, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Check out the pre-Black Friday event this weekend at Shoot Point Blank. Take advantage of early doorbuster savings on firearms, ammo, and more. Plus, all Smith & Wesson firearms will be on sale during this event. Visit your Shoot Point Blank store for details.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This was such an odd moment yesterday. And, of course, it broke the internet because people who hate Trump were rallying behind Lieutenant Colonel Vindman for sticking it to Devin Nunes during this exchange.
Mr. Vindman, you testified in your deposition that you did not know the whistleblower.
Ranking member, it's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, please.
Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, you testified.
Vindman thinks so highly of himself. He's a true American hero, don't you know?
It was very reminiscent of a decade ago. Barbara Boxer, the then senator from California, her exchange with Brigadier General Michael Walsh.
Well, why has it been delayed?
Ma'am, at the LACPR is...
do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
Yes.
It's just a thing. I worked so hard to get that title, so I'd appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Yes, Senator.
And it spawned a spoof courtesy of David Zucker, yes, one of the Zucker brothers of airplane fame, who we need again a decade later for another spoof.
My records here, General, seem to indicate the transfer of funds occurred during the previous fiscal year.
Ma'am, at the LACPR is a...
Do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
Yes.
It's just a thing. I worked so hard to get that title, so I'd appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Yes, of course, Senator.
Much better. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
Senator, I can explain. U.S. military policy is to refer to all senior ranking personnel as sir or ma'am, including members of Congress.
Thank you, General Anderson.
Major.
I thought you were a general.
Major general. It's just a thing. I worked so hard for that title. West Point, graduated top of my class. Lieutenant, a couple of combat tours. Captain, major, colonel.
Okay. I get it.
So great.
You worked hard. I worked hard.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator.
Yes.
I meant General Anderson.
Major general.
Gentlemen, please.
Ow!
There's a doctor in the house. I'm a surgeon. That's 3 more years residency. I worked so hard to get that.
Just put on the bandage. I got one. Oh, thank goodness, a scout.
Eagle Scout. I worked hard for that title.
I know. You worked so hard to get that freaking title.
Order, please.
Excuse me, officer. Captain, police captain. I worked so hard for Miss Fleming.
Judge Fleming, I worked so hard. Hello, Red Cloud.
Chief Fred Cloud. I worked so hard. Take many scalps.
I mean, the self-importance, and there were a lot of military, who responded on Twitter, including John and Gabriel, who tweeted, all enlisted people just rolled their eyes. We've all had to report to this guy. Another, I thought this was a good comment, too. Tom Quinn, I was an officer and I rolled my eyes. One's rank isn't an honorific, it's a job. Scolding civilians for not referring to you by your rank is the opposite of what the job entails. So, and Vindman's defense was, I've been marginalized by people who are critical of me and they're not recognizing my, status, service to the country. And so that's why I need the title reference.
But we had Jed Babin on yesterday. He said, don't let the title fool you. This guy just answers phones.
Well,
Which-
when he's not being petitioned to join the Ukrainian government.
Yeah, wouldn't they offer him defense ministry position or something?
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Chuck Caro. He was CNN's very first special assignment correspondent, served with the 20th Special Forces Group, Airborne, outside consultant for the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment for 25 years, technical advisor for JAG and Quantum Leap, the shows. He can tell you what Scott Bakula was really like, Amy.
Oh, my God.
Can't you wait
I
for that?
can't wait.
And contributor to Am Greatness, he has written a column about some of the ambassadors who've testified in the impeachment hearings before, as well as his former employer there, CNN. Chuck Caro, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome, Dan.
What was your reaction to that exchange that went viral between Nunez and Vindman about his title?
Well, I've been lecturing at the National Defense University and at the National Intelligence University in Washington since 1991, and my students are lieutenant colonels, and every once in a while I get a baby 1-star, and I lecture on information warfare. So somebody asked me, what do you call somebody like Colonel Vindman? And my answer was student.
Okay.
So the kid went to Harvard. He's 44 years old. I'm 70. The kid went to Harvard. That's good. Except that, in my view, the perception is that they're cookie cuttered based on decision tree decision making. If this, then that. If this, then that. Almost like a computer. At least that's my observation. So, what I saw in Colonel Vindman, first thing I'm doing being former military, was look at his ribbons.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he's got a Purple Heart and a CIB, but no other decorations for valor. And it turned out he got blown up in an IED, and for which he deserves. Been wounded for his country, a Purple Heart. But underneath that, he's got meritorious service medals and that sort of thing. But nothing that would indicate heroism as seen by the military, other than the fact that he had a Purple Heart. He also has a combat infantryman's badge, but that is a matter of how much time you spend in a combat zone with an infantry unit. Okay, so am I bowled over by someone who could have been my student? No.
Well, what do you make of the
Not at all.
fact that, he was born in Russia, their family moved here to the United States a few decades ago, but he was offered a defensive ministry position or with the Ukrainian army?
Yeah.
That's
now
not
suppose
normal.
let's say, I don't know. Remember that, I was born here by a first-generation Italian father and a fourth-generation Italian mother. And, someone could make the argument that I'd be more loyal to Italy, given the job, than to the United States. Or I would show more favor to a foreign country through which I had been born. And I look at that and go, that's bordering on accusation of treason. I wouldn't go that far.
No, I'm not.
I would say
I would definitely not accuse him of treason or accuse him of not putting America's interests first and doing his job as active duty.
Yeah.
But it is an odd event, isn't it, to have this disclosure that he was asked by the Ukrainian government, representatives of the Ukrainian government 3 times to be its defense minister as they're at war with Russia while he's active duty in the State Department here. That is strange.
Yeah, it's strange, But if you speak another language, this summer, for instance, I was with Professor Greg Alessi, who's an American who's been teaching at the Italian Air Force Academy for 30 years, and we both have an interest in Giulio Douhet, who is one of the famous proponents of air power. And he and I, these 2 old guys, go down there, and we are polishing Douhet's gravestone, because his family had died out, and we, being proponents of air power, went down there. Someone watching that could say, well, what's this?
Yeah.
He's polishing the grave of an Italian hero, but actually Duhay's book, Command of the Air, is still read at the Air Force Academy, and still makes sense because Duhay said, "Victory smiles upon those who anticipate the changes in the character of war, not upon those who wait until after those changes occurred." So, I don't want to be put in the role of trying to defend Vindman, but trying to grab onto something really negative, sort of like trying to grab on the warm Play-Doh. I don't see anything there yet that's worth rolling over and attacking.
That's fair enough. I wanted to go to this piece that you wrote for amgreatness.com about foreign service officers, and particularly focusing on Marie Yovanovitch, the former ambassador to Ukraine, who described Trump's live tweeting during her testimony as very intimidating, who, according to the transcript of her behind closed doors deposition, broke down during that closed door deposition for having been removed as the ambassador. And you suggest that maybe some of these foreign service officers are a little bit too sensitive for the post.
Yeah, again, I'm almost 70, and I remember the day that Adlai Stevenson took on Zorn at the United Nations. I couldn't imagine anything more intimidating than having in the back of your head 10,000 nuclear explosions and the end of the world, and still come out of the dugout and hit as hard as you possibly can in coherent sentences. You made everybody laugh, with the veracity of his argument. And you go from that, and I made an example of Charles Wittgenstein, who told the Russians to pack it up and shove it if they didn't like the UN in New York, and then he immediately submitted his resignation, and Reagan didn't accept it, and in fact backed him up. Say, I'll be there to help your way by. And then we come, to our ambassador in question here, and she's intimidated by tweet. Now, you got to think, this is a diplomat. A diplomat is a very thorough person who never says anything off the cuff. What kind of diplomat would listen to a part of a tweet from a congressman and not ask for the paper? Can I see the hard copy, sir? And then says instantly, I'm very intimidated by that. Can you imagine Adlai Stevenson saying that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I can't see it. Now, don't take this as an attack upon females in the government or upon females in any profession. I'm married to Lynn Russell, and I can tell you that there are extraordinarily capable females out there. So that isn't the issue. It's the issue of a diplomat reacting instantaneously to a partial bit of information that she hasn't read yet. And what does that tell you about her day-to-day style?
And what does it tell you? The testimony that we've seen so far from all of these diplomats. What does it tell you about the partisan or allegedly nonpartisan nature of these individuals?
Well, the State Department's been like this for a very long time. That's why they have the nickname of pinstripe cookie pushers. That's how they're referred to as in D.C. In fact, if you Google cookie pusher, you'll see, I'm a State Department guy. Go ahead, Google it and tell me what the definition is. And if you go there, it's funny. Having taught at the National Defense University, which used to be exclusively military, now that we have the, quote, interagency, you get a lot of guys from Department of State, Central Intelligence Agency, various intelligence agencies, including Department of Energy. And, you can see, when they walk in, you can tell who they are, even if they're all in civilian dress. And just listen to the way they speak. And there's a state speak, there's a mill speak, and it's very distinctive. Mm-hmm. The State Department tends to be heavily loaded with Ivy League type,
overeducated fops. Yes.
Yeah, and heavily loaded, not totally loaded, and they during administrations they'll change jobs like musical chairs, but they're still there. Mm-hmm. My most direct experience is talking with one manifestation or the other of the combating terrorism cell within the State Department. And the chairs change and the names change, but it's basically the same bunch of people. And there's not, I don't want to be unfair here, there's not a great deal of real-world experience. Not a great deal. And so, you get this kind of sense of wide or starry-eyed reactions to, boy, this would be a swell idea, and it's not.
Before we let you go, I wanted to give you an opportunity to address another topic you wrote about, and that's CNN. You were CNN's very first special assignment correspondent, and you wrote a piece in Am Greatness about what CNN has become under Jeff Zucker. And in part, and I'm going to read this just because I enjoyed it so much, you described Brian Stelter, their so-called media critic.
Oh, gosh.
His career can be described succinctly as that of a mall rat who got lucky.
Yeah.
Zucker is such a Zucker sycophant that his name is now used inside CNN as a synonym for obsequious. Stelter is as oblivious to the obvious as Knucklehead Smith, whom he resembles both in his potato head visage and his inability to cogitate about anything other than what his ventriloquist boss tells him to say. That's fun. I appreciate that.
Well, look, I was there when Ted Turner was still in charge. And Ted, Looney Tune though he may have been, was a passionate man dedicated to making the premier news outfit in the world. And he kept his hands off, for the most part. And Reese Schoenfeld, put it together with three wonderful producers. My boss, Ted Kavanaugh, and Bert Reinhardt, and Ed, no relation to Ted Turner. And, the idea was do it right the first time. We're the little guys on a beat, but we're going to be the big guys. And we did. And since then, it's instead of cable news network, it's cable nonsense network. Yep. And, I can't imagine in my days at CNN, especially because I was special assignments and I was off in very dangerous places by myself, I cannot imagine anchors bloviating about anything that they felt like doing at any time. I mean, Daniel Shore, who had been on the White House enemies list, had a kind of a talk opinion program, but that was it. The rest of the anchors played it straight, and all of us had to double or triple sources, especially special assignments. And now I see this lackadaisical stuff, with Brian Stelter, was really kind of a career opportunist. If you read, how he came up, you remember in New York, he had a little problem with New York Times because he forgot to tell them that he was dating an anchor woman over at CNN, NBC, and they became the power couple, for about 6 weeks till he dumped her, or she dumped him.
She dumped him, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, they all now have a political agenda, and they're pushing.
You think?
It's just annoying. But I watch though because I want to hear what the left has to say and what they're,
I can't watch anymore. It's like watching your 12-year-old child stolen by aliens from another planet, and becoming something else. I mean, come on. And Fredo? Are you kidding me?
Fredo.
That show's unwatchable.
Racist?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I called him a Mediterranean Eddie Haskell with too much Brill cream. I mean, is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's gosh, if we only had the time to get to Don Lemon and the full circle, the full complement of them.
Yeah, mine is Don the Unfireable Lemon. I rest my case.
Yeah, the black hole. Chuck Caro, he is the CNN's very first special assignment correspondent. He served with the 20th Special Forces Group in the Airborne, outside consultant for the Pentagon Office of Net Assessment for 25 years, technical advisor to the shows JAG and Quantum Leap.